Gather around, darlings. Tonight I'm going to be reading William Cries. Sometimes the choices you make come back to haunt you. Book? William Cries. Mrs. Decker? The man in the blue called, poking his head out of the door. A large sign that read, "Patient Entrance," was written in curvy writing and hung above the entrance. "That's me," she said, pushing her hips up in an awkward manner to propel herself into a standing position. This was a lot easier to do before 8 months pregnant. Laughing, she made her way to the door. "So, you're worried about the pregnancy. What has been happening that has caused concern?" he asked as they walked back to the ultrasound room. "I've been having the feeling that something is wrong. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm worried. I read somewhere that moms just get a feeling, and sometimes the cord is wrapped around its neck or something." "Well, we're gonna have a look. Just lay down on the table. The jelly's gonna be a little cold." Scooting his rolling chair forward, he tucked the towel under her pants, squirting the jelly on and rolling the wand around. A heartbeat sounded through the monitor, beating impossibly fast. Pushing buttons on the computer, the screen changed to colors on top of the grays. He said, pushing a few more buttons. The slide panel on the screen filled up with screenshots. What does that mean? Is there something wrong? Is the cord wrapped around the baby's neck?" No cord wrapped around his neck." "Wait, what?" "His neck. See, there's the penis, but the neck looks clear." "I didn't want to know the gender. I was going to wait until I met the baby." "Oh, well, just forget I said anything," he said, wiping the jelly on the towel. "You can sit up. I just want to call the doctor in here to look at these, just to make sure the baby is okay." Scampering out of the room, he closed it behind him. Rubbing her hands over her belly, she sighed. "You're a boy, huh? I'll be honest, that's what I was hoping for. But I would have loved you either way. Your father's name was William Noah Decker. You won't get to meet him, baby. He was a very brave firefighter." A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Eyes shooting to the door, it opened wide. A short, rotund woman waddled in. "Hello, Katie. It's nice to see you again. I'm sorry you're having concerns about the baby. Let's see what Tyler was looking at." Putting on thick-rimmed glasses, she leaned into the screen, her face turning grim, her eyes narrows as she looked at each picture, blowing up the gray ones in size and then the colored ones. "Katie, there's no reason to panic yet. However, it looks like your baby might have a heart defect. We won't know for sure until we do an echocardiogram. Now, that means we put a camera in your belly. You're still early. We would have to worry about fetal development." "What are you looking at? You can fix it, can't you? Is he going to be okay?" "He? You caved and you asked about the sex?" "No, Tyler let it slip," she snapped, looking at the guy cowering in the corner. "And that is why texts just don't say those things," she said flatly. "Have you heard of Zephyr's disease?" Sitting up straighter, she wiggled to the edge of the table. "No, I haven't. Is it bad?" "It's very rare, affecting about 1 in 53,000 births. The heart isn't formed properly. To put it in layman's terms, it doesn't have all the right rooms and hallways. Now, this isn't curable and has a very poor prognosis. We need to be sure. Baby born with Zephyr's disease rarely make it to 5 years of age." Sitting wide-eyed, staring at the doctor, Katie's mouth opened and closed. Looking back to Tyler in the corner, she wrapped her arms around her stomach. Tears fell down her face. What about a transplant? There has to be something. I already lost Will." "We can do an amniocentesis and check enzyme markers, but that isn't guaranteed. We need to do an echocardiogram. I know this isn't what you want to hear, but you could always opt for a scheduled abortion, as the baby will not live long out of the womb. Heart transplants apply to children over a year of age and only last about 13 years. Sadly, baby is only eligible for 2 transplants, and they get harder and harder as time goes on. You have some fucking nerve even suggesting that. Could you kill your baby on a maybe? Looking down at the floor, Dr. Bennett worried her hands. I didn't think so. Sliding off the table, she stomped to the door. Schedule an induction with Holly. If we want to have a choice, we need to know what's going on with baby's chest. We will have all hands on standby. Thank you, doctor, she whispered, closing the door behind her. Leaning against the wall for support, her breath raced in and out. Knees giving away, she slid down the wall, head bouncing off the tile floor. Blood pooled around her brown hair, staining the green blouse. Help! I need help over here, a nurse called from the desk, running down the hallway. Rolling her over on her back, she applied pressure to her head. Checking for breathing, she called out again, Call the rapid team! The door down the hallway flew open. Dr. Bennett came charging down the hallway. Tyler stood in the doorway, pale as a sheet. Katie peered up at the faces as they hurried together. Save my baby, she whispered, the room going black around her. Busting through the door, they lifted Katie onto the stretcher. Fixing an oxygen mask over her face as quickly as they swooped in, the team rushed her out of the hallway. Horrified mothers poked their head out of the exam rooms. Groaning, Katie rubbed her head, her eyes scrunching shut as pain exploding across her temples. The faint beeping in the background held a steady beat. Sitting up, she looked around, squinting into the dim room. Her memory flooded back to her, her hand shooting up to her belly. She breathed out a sigh of relief. The baby bump was still fine. A gentle kick greeted her hand. Pushing her call light, she waited in silence. Time ticked by, minute by minute. 45 minutes later, she scooted down to the end of the bed, wiggling past the bed rail. She stood on shaky legs. Opening the door down the hall, a crowd of people gathered around. Glancing up at the flashing light above her door, she took a shaky step into the hall. Leaning against the wall for support, she limped over to the crowd. Excuse me, ma'am? What's going on here? Dylan Keno went into early labor, the nurse replied, not sparing her a glance. Like movie star Dylan Keno? Katie inquired, looking into the room, the blue curtain blocking the bed from view. Of course it's... Looking at her side-eyed, the nurse paled. Oh my God, Miss Decker, why are you out here? You had a nasty fall. You shouldn't be up walking. Grabbing Katie's arm, she ushered her back into her room. I tried calling out. Nobody came. It's been like an hour. Is my baby okay? Sitting her back into bed, she pulled the covers up to her chin. That fall kick-started labor. We have been monitoring your contractions. NICU has already been called. We just need a few more centimeters and we can do the echo, okay? Walking backwards, she shut the door, not waiting for a reply. Oh. Okay, she said meekly, rubbing her hands over her stomach. We'll know soon, William. Please be okay. Curling into herself, Katie drifted into a deep slumber. She was startled awake as her bed shook. Hi. I'm taking you down to cardio, the man said, not looking down. He pushed the bed into the hall. In silence, he pushed her into a sterile-looking room. Hitting the brake on the bed, he left. All right, Miss Decker, let's see this baby, The man scooted his chair over, pushing buttons on the monitor. Little pressure. Tapping buttons on the monitor, he took pictures. Okay, we're done. I'll tell him you're ready to go. What about the baby? Is he okay? I can't tell you what I saw, if I saw anything, he said, stone-faced, looking over the pictures. The ride back to the unit was just as silent. Katie wasn't sure what was worse, the not knowing or the feeling like everyone else already knew her baby was going to die and just not telling her. Locking her bed, he ghosted out of her room without a word. The hands on the clock marched on steadily, time giving no reprieve to her grief. The chiming of bells rang out. Looking over at her phone, she couldn't muster the want to answer the text. I missed dinner with my mother. I'm sure she's worried sick. She thought. Rolling over, she pulled the blankets over her head. She needed to process before she could be interrogated. Katie desperately needed the doctor's answer more than she needed her next breath. A sharp rap at the door pulled her from her thoughts. Fear iced over her veins as dread settled into her gut. Dr. Bennett sheepishly entered the room, closing the door behind her, white knuckle grip on her clipboard. She sighed, eyes looking around the room. I saw the results of the echo, and I'm sorry to inform you that the baby is showing a bad heart. Zephyr's disease is very rare. A specialist has been consulted to see you. Stepping slowly backwards, the door swung open, slamming into her back. Dr. Bennett stumbled forward. What the fuck? She muttered, rubbing her head. Turning around, she glared at the nurse. I'm sorry, Dr. Bennett. We just saw some D-cells on the monitor, and I rushed in here to check her. You need to be more careful. That could have been Katie you hit. Shouldering past the nurse, she stomped into the hallway. Hi, Katie. Sorry to barge in. I just need to check your monitors. Pulling the blankets back, she gasped. Dr. Bennett, I need you. We have a cord. Jumping on the bed, she pushed her fingers into Katie. Screaming, Katie pushed herself up into the bed. Katie, I need you to lay back. They broke your water, and the cord is out. I'm holding the baby up. I have to stay here. You're going to have an emergency C-section, okay? God damn it, Dr. Bennett yelled up the hallway. Call surgery. We're coming in. Barging into the room, she yanked the bed out and ran down the hallway. Pounding the button on the wall, the double door shot open. The cold room was full of people in blue gowns. Where did all these people come from? She wondered. A tall man loomed over her head. I'm the anesthesiologist. This medicine will put you to sleep. Everything will be okay when you wake up, he said. Putting a mask over her face, the world went dark. Groaning, Katie tried to roll over, the pain in her abdomen causing her to yell out. Hand rushing up to her abdomen, she gasped when it fell flat. Sitting straight up, her throat felt like it was closing off, and panic, ragged breaths pulled in and out. Help! Somebody help me! She shrieked. The beige curtain pulled back. A short woman waddled in. It's okay, Katie. You're just waking up from surgery. The baby is in the nursery. Are you ready to go see him? Yes, I am. I want to see William. Katie cried out. Trying to stand, the woman helped her into a wheelchair, the cold plastic chilling her back. Rolling past a large window with bassinets set up in neat little rows, Katie leaned forward, craning her neck to see. This is the regular nursery. Your baby's in the special nursery since he got anesthesia from you in the womb. He's okay. It's just a precaution. Wheeling her farther down the hall, a smaller window had a baby laying in a light box. Is that my William? Katie asked, pressing her face into the glass. No, that one's mine, Dylan said, walking up behind her. Let's go see William, the nurse said, pushing her through the double doors. William was laying in his bed, swaddled in a blue blanket. Handing her the small baby, he made a few grunts of displeasure about being woken up. Crying, Katie buried her face in the blankets. Hi, William. I'm your mama. I've waited a really long time to meet you, she said, holding his little hand, not taking her eyes off his face for fear it would disappear into a dream. Katie finally looked up as she was pushed into her room. We'll be in to check on you two, okay? Padding over to the bed, she held the baby in her lap. I have no idea what to do. I know you can't understand yet, but I didn't do a proper job growing you. Your heart isn't right. I would give you mine if I could. Even if that means I couldn't hold you, I would still be with you every step of the way. Room going blurry as her tears welled up in her eyes. Pushing the blue blanket down around his face, she ran her thumb over his cheeks. Leaning back in bed, she hugged the baby to her chest. Closing her eyes, she rested her head on the wall. Humming softly, she rocked William. Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am, Sarah said, tapping on her arm. Katie's eyes fluttered open to see an elderly lady looking at her. It's not safe to sleep with the baby. You could have dropped him. My name is Sarah. I'm the nursery nurse. I know, I didn't mean to doze off. I'm just so tired, but I'm afraid to take my eyes off him. Do you know what Zephyr's disease is? Katie inquired, looking down at sleeping William. I sure do. I was shocked to read it in his chart, honestly. As a mother, I always said I would do whatever it took to protect my babies, and then I lost his father in a fire, so I only get the one. He was born and he looked so perfect, yet somehow he's so sick. That's a horrid story. I'm so sorry to hear that. I wish I could help. Well, funny you should mention that. I have been sitting here all night wondering about how to fix this. How to be the best mom I can for the baby that never had a chance. Looking up, she licked her lips. Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes tight. My husband was a firefighter and died in the line of duty. $50K was the price they put on that life. I stashed that money away for William's future. Opening her eyes, tears falling down her face. I just didn't know I would need it so soon. But that's all I have. I will give you that nest egg to switch my son with the baby under the lamp. Gasping, Sarah took a step back. Mrs. Decker, I don't think you know what you're saying. You're in shock. No, Sarah, I'm afraid I know exactly what I'm saying. I'm a preschool teacher. No one will even notice his fight. But Dylan Keno, people will notice her. They will give her hundreds of thousands. No one will say so, but she would get a heart before I could. If she took William home, he would have a better life than I could give him. Sometimes being a good mother means not being with your babies. I just need you to help me. Just switch the babies in the bassinet. I'll wire you the money and we never speak of this again. Please, I'm begging you, help me. Help him. Jotting down her bank information, Sarah hesitated before handing Katie the slip of paper. I'm not doing this for the money. I hope that she will start a Cure for the Cause campaign, and maybe these babies will have a fighting chance in the future. Send the money. I'll be back to get William around 2 a.m. That's when the other nurse goes to lunch, so you better get your goodbyes out. Katie looked up at the clock. The face read 12:54. A pang of anxiety shot into her gut. Okay, 2 o'clock. We'll be ready. Giving her one last look, Sarah pulled the door behind her. Grabbing her phone off the bedside table, the screen lit up, showing 47 texts, 16 missed calls. After 2, I'll call her, she thought. Sitting with her ankles together, she sat William between her legs. Turning her video camera on, she took a deep breath, steeling her nerves. Hi, William. I just want to remember this forever. I want to remember every part of your face. We won't know each other as long as I hoped. Choking on a sob, she cleared her throat. I won't see you walk or be at your graduation, but I want you to know that I'll never stop thinking about you, not for 1 second. There would never be enough time for goodbye, she thought. A soft knock sounded on the door, stealing her fate. I brought you lorazepam. I called the doctor and got something to help with anxiety and to help you sleep. When you wake up, I'll bring the baby in here, okay? Nodding her head, Sarah took the little round pill, covering William's face in kisses, smearing tears across his cheeks and nose. Handing the baby off to Sarah, watched them leave the room. Howling in pain, she rolled over, curling into herself and drifting into a deep sleep. Looking around, the thick darkness, dense smoke hung in the air. A bright light shone off in the distance. Running as fast as she could, Katie charged to the light. It seemed to move away from her just as fast as she ran toward it. Choking on the smoke, her eyes began to water. Slowing down, she fell to her knees, trying to crawl after the light. She collapsed on her belly. Breathing in short, frantic breaths, her vision grew hazy. The bright light was getting closer now. A silhouette of a man emerged from it. Trying to focus on the shape, a knife plunged into her gut. An all too familiar pair of boots walked into her line of vision. Reaching out her hand to try to touch them, he exploded into flames, screaming, the heat licking her face and arms. In a blink, everything went black. Screaming, Katie thrashed around, ripping the covers off, bolting upright, gasping for breath. She clutched her chest. What the fuck was that? She whispered. Pushing her call light, a voice clicked on the intercom. Can I help you? Can you tell Sarah I'm ready for my baby to come back? Of course, be right there. The speaker clicked off. Katie had no idea how to prepare to meet the baby she would call her son. She thought she would just project all the love she wanted to give William and hope he felt the vibrations. The door creaked open. A man brought in a baby wrapped in blue. Where is Sarah? She asked nonchalantly. She left at 7. I'm Tate. I'll be the nurse today. Handing her the baby, she didn't look down at him. That heartbreak did not need an audience. Watching him leave the room, she gathered up all of her courage and dropped her eyes to the sleeping face. Newborn babies really do look alike, but there were subtle differences. In his nose and the slope of his forehead, it might have been missed if she hadn't spent an hour memorizing every curve and line. Picking up her phone, she dialed her number. That call sounded easier than cooing at the new baby. Hell, he's gonna need a name. Alan James Decker, that has a nice ring to it, she thought. Hi, Mom. The screaming that came through the speaker was probably heard at the other end of the hallway. The sudden noise called Alan to jerk awake. His cries reveled hers in volume. We have a lot to talk about, but I thought you might like to meet your new grandson. The lie felt sour in her mouth. She caught a whiff of smoke. Looking around frantically, delightful squeals blared on the phone, the subsequent click a welcome sound. She leaned back against the pillows. I should have waited for that call. I don't think I can do this. Maybe I made a mistake, she thought. Scooping up the child, she ventured into the hallway. Keeping the baby tucked into her chest, she walked over to the special nursery. Looking in the window, it was empty. A blue-clad nurse walked down the hallway. Excuse me. Is he the only baby here now? Yes, ma'am, he is. Do you need us to take him back? Oh, no, I just like looking at the babies, that is all. Walking back to her room, she sunk in her bed. That's it. It's done. There's no going back now. If I admit I switched the babies, I'll go to jail, and I'll lose the time that William has left. No way I could leave him with my mother, she mused. Just in time for the door to swing open, a bouquet of blue balloons fought to fit into the door. Hi, oh, give me that sweet baby. Her mother dropped the balloon weight onto the floor and rushed over to the bed. Holding her arms out, she scooped him up. Hello, William, I'm your Gigi. Mom, his name is Alan James, Katie said, looking at her bed. Oh. I thought you were going to name him after his father. It hurts too much. I can't call him that, Katie whispered, toying with the blankets. Well, Alan, I'm your Gigi, she said, not missing a beat. An alarm blared through the halls. A nurse ran down, poking his head in, startling the baby, began to scream. It's a fire alarm. It's probably somebody smoking in the bathroom, but I'm shutting the door just in case. Katie paled, nausea rolling up in her throat. Oh, God. Just breathe, baby. He said it's just a smoker. Isn't that right, Alan? Your mom just needs to calm down. Moments later, the alarm clicked off. Tate pushed the door open. Sorry about that, guys. It's weird. They said that the smoke was detected in 4604. You weren't smoking in here, were you? He said, sniffing around the room. Katie looked at her mom with a puzzled face. We don't smoke, her mom said, cooing at the baby. Well, I have your paperwork ready. You're good to go, Katie. Oh, yay! You guys can go to breakfast with your Gigi. Her mom squealed. Mom, he's a newborn baby. We should just go home. Oh, there your mom goes again, being fussy. I'll text you when we get home. Let's do breakfast tomorrow. On the drive home, Katie drove 10 miles under the speed limit. A chorus of angry honks followed her. But walking the baby into their house, putting him in the nursery they made for William, the thought was too much for her to bear. Luckily, Alan was sleeping peacefully in the back seat, circling the neighborhood several times. Hunger finally won out. Pulling into the garage, carrying the car seat into the house, she set him in the living room floor. Opening the near-empty fridge, an old pizza box caught her eye. It's been in there for 5 days, but with all the preservatives and food these days, it's still good, right? She thought, piling the plate up with Veggie Lover's pizza and nuking it in the microwave. Katie moved the car seat into the hallway, sitting it outside the nursery door. Tomorrow. I will try to put him down for a nap in there, but it won't hurt him for just one night. He'll never remember anyways. I wonder if I should go all Hollywood and write a letter and put it in a safe deposit box and leave the letter in my will, she mused with a sigh. Sitting cross-legged on her bed, she chewed the pizza in silence, eyes still glued on the urn on the mantel. I don't know what to do, Will. It seemed so right when I did it, but now I'm not so sure I can love this baby. I can barely look at him. Katie whispered into the silence. Setting her pizza plate aside, rolled over, curling into a pillow. His favorite flannel shirt was buttoned up over it. Closing her eyes, she drifted into a chaotic sleep. The room was dark. Every direction she looked, Panting, she turned in a wide circle, unsure which way to run. How could you give up our son? He will never know us. Know me? A deep voice boomed in the distance. It wasn't Will's voice at all, she thought. It was deeper, more sinister. Stepping backwards away from the voice, she bumped into something. A light admitted behind her. Turning quickly, she was face to face with Will. Most of his face and body was burnt. His eyes leaked down his face. His firefighter uniform was melted into his skin. Black blood oozed from the wounds. I warned you 3 times. You could have made this right. Smoke blew from around the flames, licking up his boots. The fire spread up his legs. Taking a step back, Katie ran as fast as she could away from her husband. She could feel the flames reaching out, burning her legs and back. Looking back, Will was right behind her. Reaching up, he grabbed her hair, yanking her backwards into his chest. Her brown ponytail burnt off, the pungent smell exploding around her. He pulled her to his chest, wrapping his arms around her tightly, the skin sloughing off onto her PJs, blood staining the yellow cami. You're going to burn with me, Katie. Flames grew brighter, her skin bubbling up and burning back, exposing bone. Screaming, she fought to be free. Going limp, the flames consumed her. The world faded into black. Mrs. Jones? The man on the phone asked. Yes, this is she. Who may I ask is calling? It's Gordon, the sheriff from the Bolton County Police Force. I have some terrible news. It seems your daughter Katie killed herself last night. She set her bed on fire. Thankfully, the neighbors called 911. The baby wasn't injured. We need you to come to the station and speak with us, he said into the phone. As if on cue, Alan started crying in the background. Oh no, she sobbed into the phone. I'll be right there, she wailed. The call cut off with a click. So, what would you pick? Because sometimes what seems like a dream is really a nightmare. Until next time, happy hauntings.